Fire, screams, the stench of burning flesh. These were the memories that haunted Raisin's sleep. He was but a boy when the obsidian blades descended upon his peaceful village, leaving a trail of death and destruction in their wake. He remembered his father, the village elder, bravely facing the attackers, only to fall beneath their merciless blades. He remembered his mother, her eyes filled with terror, pushing him toward a hidden passage as the flames consumed their home. Raisin had escaped, his 8-year-old legs carrying him away from the inferno. He ran until he collapsed, the cries of his dying village echoing in his ears. He lay there for hours, the crimson-stained sky a cruel mockery of his pain. A vow formed in his heart, as unyielding as steel, as cold as the blades that had orphaned him. He would avenge his family, he would hunt down the obsidian blades and make them pay in blood. But vengeance was a dish best served cold, and Raisin was alone, a young boy with nothing but the clothes on his back and a burning hatred in his heart. He would need guidance, training. He would become a weapon, forged in the fires of his own suffering. He would become a storm, and the obsidian blades would drown in his fury. Rumors spoke of a hermit, Juro, who lived in the mountains, a master swordsman who had turned his back on the world. He was said to be as unyielding as the mountains themselves, as sharp as the blade he wielded. Raisin, his heart full of bitterness and purpose, sought him out. The journey was long and arduous, but Raisin pressed on, fueled by his need for revenge. He found Juro in a secluded valley, a lone figure amidst the whispering bamboo and cascading waterfalls. The old man was wiry and strong, his eyes sharp and clear despite his age. He looked upon Raisin with a gaze that seemed to pierce his very soul. Raisin told him of his village, of the fire, the screams, the blood. He told him of his vow, of the burning need for vengeance that consumed him. Juro listened patiently, his face impassive. When Raisin was finished, the old man spoke, his voice rough as gravel. "Vengeance is a double-edged sword, young one. It can cut you as deeply as your enemy." Raisin spent the next 10 years of his life under Juro's tutelage. The old man was a harsh but fair teacher, pushing Raisin to his physical and mental limits. He taught him swordsmanship, the art of stealth, and the importance of strategy. But most importantly, he taught him about himself, about the dangers of letting hatred consume him. Raisin learned to channel his rage, to focus it like the point of a blade. He sparred with Juro for hours on end, the clash of steel echoing through the mountains. He learned to move like a whisper in the wind, to blend with the shadows. He became a warrior, his body honed to a razor's edge, his spirit tempered in the fires of his past. But even as he mastered the way of the sword, he could not escape the ghosts of his past. The faces of his parents haunted his dreams. The cries of his dying village echoed in his ears. He knew that true peace would elude him until he fulfilled his vow. And so, on the eve of his 18th birthday, Raisin bid farewell to Juro. He was ready to face his destiny. He was ready to become a storm. Raisin's quest for vengeance led him across the war-torn land, following the whispers of the wind, the rumors of the obsidian blades. He became a shadow, moving unseen through bustling towns and desolate landscapes. He hunted down every lead, every rumor, every fleeting mention of the men who had destroyed his life. His journey took him to gambling dens and tea houses, to the gilded palaces of lords and the mud-soaked battlefields where armies clashed. He fought bandits and rogue samurai, always seeking information, always moving closer to his prey. And slowly, piece by piece, he began to uncover a conspiracy far darker and more complex than he could have ever imagined. The obsidian blades were not merely ruthless mercenaries as he had once believed. They were pawns in a larger game controlled by powerful figures who lurked in the shadows. Raisin discovered that his father, the village elder, had been on the verge of exposing a plot that threatened to plunge the entire nation into chaos. The attack on his village had not been random, but a calculated act of silencing. With each passing day, with every life he took, Raisin felt the darkness closing in. The line between vengeance and cruelty blurred, the weight of his vow a crushing burden. He was haunted by the faces of the men he had slain, even those who deserved their fate. His quest for the obsidian blades culminated in a confrontation at a remote mountain fortress. It was there, amidst swirling snow and the clang of steel, that he finally faced the men who had murdered his family. The battle was fierce, a whirlwind of flashing blades and desperate cries. Raisin fought with the fury of a demon, his swordsmanship honed to perfection. He moved like a phantom, striking down his enemies with cold precision. But the obsidian blades were skilled warriors, and they were many. Just when victory seemed within reach, Raisin felt a searing pain in his side. He looked down to see a blade protruding from his flesh, the hilt clutched in the hand of the obsidian blade's leader, a hulking brute with eyes as cold as ice.